Empires died twice, once as governments, and once as memories. Akkad died only once. By 2100 BCE, Agade was a capital without a country. The four quarters had shrunk to a fragile patchwork defended canals. The great grain fleets were gone. The northern breadbasket had turned to dust. Inside the city, rituals continued. Titles were spoken, tablets were inscribed. But power had evaporated. Agade had become a consumptive center. It produced nothing. It lived on memory. The villages surrounding the capital were abandoned first. People fled inward for protection. But walls do not grow wheat. The rivers shifted again. Trade routes rerouted. Agade was bypassed by geography itself, and then it vanished. Not conquered in glory, not burned in epic siege. It faded so completely that centuries later even neighboring kings no longer knew where it had stood. The first imperial capital disappeared beneath silt and sand. It has never been definitively found. But collapse is not only territorial, it is structural. The Akkadian Empire was not just an army. It was knowledge. Canal dams, flood cycles, tax quotas, administrative math. When the center fractured, that knowledge fractured with it. Scribal schools closed, engineers scattered. The massive irrigation network coordinated across cities for the first time in history began to decay. A canal requires constant dredging. Neglect one section, and the downstream city floods or starves. Without central coordination, the hydraulic system cascaded into failure. The empire did not simply fall. It unmade the landscape. Fields reverted to marsh. Salt crust spread. Roads were swallowed by dunes. The machine stopped. Then came something deeper. A legitimacy vacuum. Sargon had replaced local gods with imperial authority. Naram-Sin had declared himself divine. But divinity does not survive famine. When the king failed to control the sky, people did not just reject him. They rejected centralization itself. Trust collapsed. The post-Akkadian lamentations describe a world where mothers did not recognize sons, where fields produced only wild grass. This was psychological ruin. The belief in shared destiny had broken. The empire had promised order. It delivered vulnerability. For a time, chaos reigned. Gutian tribes moved through the ruins. Local strongmen seized canal heads. Every city fortified itself. History flickered. The Sumerian king list records the confusion with brutal honesty. Who was king? Who was not king? The imperial idea seemed finished, but it was not, because the collapse had revealed something irreversible. The world was too interconnected to return to isolation. The solution came from the south, from Ur. A ruler named Ur-Nammu rose. He did not call himself a god. He called himself a shepherd. He studied the Akkadian failure carefully. He kept what worked. Standardized weights, central accounting, professional bureaucracy. But he restored partnership with the temples. He rebuilt canals through cooperation rather than conquest. He constructed the great ziggurat of Ur-Nammu as a palace of domination, but as a monument to divine balance. He introduced the code of Ur-Nammu, the oldest surviving law code in history. Fixed penalties, predictable justice, an attempt to restore trust. This was the third dynasty of Ur. A softer machine, less aggressive, more controlled, but caution has its own trap. The Neo-Sumerian state became hyper-bureaucratic. Archaeologists have recovered over 100,000 tablets from this short era. Receipts, inventory lists, audit records. Every sheep counted, every jar measured. The state tried to eliminate uncertainty through paperwork. It created stability, but at a cost. Economic flexibility vanished. Merchants could not adjust to market shifts. Farmers over-irrigated to meet quotas. The salt returned. The same environmental pressures resurfaced. Walls were built again to keep out desert migrants. Men stood on ramparts instead of tending fields. The empire had changed its tone. It had not escaped its constraints. Meanwhile, Agade faded into myth. Unlike Babylon or Nineveh, its location was lost. The city that had ruled the Four Quarters became a legend, buried beneath the Tigris's shifting course. But while the city died, something else survived. The Akkadian language. It became the diplomatic language of the ancient Near East. Kings from Egypt to Elam wrote treaties in Akkadian. Centuries later, scribes still copied the legend of Sargon. Naram-Sin's divine imagery shaped future rulers. The horned helmet. The universal titles. King of the Four Quarters. The empire failed geographically. It succeeded psychologically. Akkad had proven something radical. It was possible to govern a region, not just a city. It was possible to standardize measures, to unify trade, to project power beyond walls. But it also proved something darker. Centralization amplifies vulnerability. Integration magnifies collapse. An empire can solve fragmentation, but it cannot escape climate. It cannot override soil. It cannot decree rain. Agade is gone. Its palaces recycled. Its gold melted down. Its streets erased. But the idea of the empire, one language, one measure, one law, one world, never disappeared. Every conqueror who followed Babylonian, Assyrian, Persian, Roman chased the same blueprint. They inherited Sargon's ambition. They studied his mistakes. They tried to balance scale with resilience. Some succeeded longer. None escaped the same trade-offs. The Akkadian Empire lasted barely 2 centuries, but it permanently changed how humanity imagined power. Before Akkad, cities ruled themselves. After Akkad, rulers imagined ruling everything. The dust buried the capital. It could not bury the aspiration. The first empire failed. But the age of empires had begun. In our next series, we move to Babylon, to a king who would try to solve the Akkadian problem not with divinity, but with law. The machine is broken. But history has learned how to build it again.